Hi, everyone. And today I'm so excited because we've got Sharan Nayayer here herself to tell us more about her condition. Last week, I told Sharon's story. And this week, Sharan and I decided it would be far better for her to actually tell what it's been like and what she has done for the past 13 or 14 years to manage her condition. It's going to be a very open and honest discussion. And so we ask for you to accept what we are talking and just hear it. And anyone with lupus who would like to add to the conversation, please, at the end of our talk and in the messages, comments below, please ask your questions there. And Sharan and I will, or Sharan actually will answer them. And as Sharan says, if there's anything that you can add that she would be able to take away and find helpful, please, if you can do that as well. And before we get into it, if you wouldn't mind, just remembering if you've liked this video to hit the like button, the thumbs up button, and subscribe, and also hit the notification bell. This gets other people to be able to see this vital information as well. So without further ado, Sharan, welcome. It is so good to have you with us. And thank you for
being
so open with your illness and being so ready to share the ups and the downs.
Thank you so much, Stu, for having me on. And as I've said before, I appreciate the platform because lupus is one of those conditions that's out there, and as much as it's been growing in terms of people knowing about it, it's still not understood that well.
Absolutely. And it's quite a complicated disease because there's so many layers to it. And everyone, as they say, experiences it differently. So it's just so good to have at least one person's story to set a background for others to feel that they can share more. So to begin with, I'd like to, the same as we have for all the other videos, is to ask you about your meal plan and the nutrition side of how you handle your disease. So what you did tell me, and I'd like you to add to it, is that it's a low fat, low salt, minimal animal protein. And that this helps keep the immune system from being overly reactive, and it's easier on your kidneys. So do you have a specific dietary plan that you follow?
Look, at the onset of all of this, it was literally trial and error throughout it, because lots of foods that I've been eating practically all my life suddenly seem to have turned against me. So I've never been lactose intolerant, but in the last 8 years or so, I've had to look for non-dairy substitutes. And in terms of a non-protein diet, in terms of your meats and your fish, chicken and stuff like that, that for me has been a personal decision. And I've found that it's worked wonders in terms of my body as a whole, but in terms of my mind as well, it's been less reactive and progressive than I think it would have been if I had done the original natural proteins.
Okay, thank you for that. And so all around you said that it has also helped your digestive system, which in turn, of course, helps your whole body. And you also said that your bread intake?
Yes, one of the things I had cut out, I'd been to a dietitian at one point, and I'd had an allergy test done in terms of food. And like I said, many of the foods that I have been eating literally all my life, I had to slowly cut out of my diet, and bread was one of them. All your nightshade vegetables, tomatoes, potatoes. The doctor, my doctor and the dietitian as well had advised that, cut it out of your diet, and by trial and error, see if you reintroduce what would happen. And yes, in terms of these little dietary changes, I have found relief in terms of pain management and general well-being physically. But from time to time, I will indulge in, let's say, having fast food chips and things like that, and immediately I will feel the effects in the course of the evening or definitely the day after, in terms of pain and a heaviness in my body's well-being. But again, what I have found is generally it's been said literally all over the world that healthy, fresh fruit and vegetables, nothing beats that, and having that rainbow color of food on your plate. Another thing that I have never been accustomed to is breakfast usually, but now it's one of those meals where I've never been an oats person. Breakfast would probably be a cup of tea and that was it. But now I've added smoothies into my diet and oats into my diet, lots more of your nuts, raisins, legumes, and things like that. So a lot more protein-rich foods that have nothing to do with actual meat, fish, and eggs.
Thank you for that. And I'm glad you brought up the fish, because you also mentioned that you follow more of a pescatarian way of eating. Can you explain that to people? What do you mean by pescatarian? What is it?
A pescatarian is a person that has fish, all types of seafood, and vegetables and your fruits. There's no meat, chicken, pork, steak, all of that that's included in this diet. And for me, it was a choice I had to make very early on in this condition, because after diagnosis and prior to that, I was also anemic. And I made the decision to become a vegetarian before my diagnosis. My mom had been the one who'd had lupus first and had passed away within 4 years of her being diagnosed. My anemia had gotten to a point where the doctor said it was B12 injections, and those injections are very painful and I had to take them quite often. So my choice to go back to natural protein was therefore to have just fish. Fish seems much easier to digest and easier on the palate as well.
Okay. That's very interesting to hear as well, because when I was doing some research of my own, it said that sardines are so high in omega-3s, which is what lupus patients need in a good number. So it's naturally into what it needed, which I'm finding fascinating. Just listening intuitively to your body, you've actually been able to introduce most of the foodstuffs that your body needs. The other one that I asked you about, for example, was the garlic and onion. And you, oh yes, tell everyone what.
I think for me personally, with all of this that's transpired now, I've really grown in terms of being more open-minded to food. And onions, it's just the sweetness in onions when you get it to that caramelized form. And in terms of garlic, having it raw is one thing. And then when you watch all of these cooking programs and you see what they do with it, it became a little bit more interesting. But on doing research, garlic has incredible healing properties. So for me, adding it to my food, either in a cooked or a raw form, has also been very beneficial, because in terms of having a lowered immune system, you need to have as many foods on your side in order to boost it.
That's so, and of course, those are the ones that do help to boost and to almost like modulate your immune system, isn't it? It's kind of to keep it on an even keel, not too high, which makes the lupus also go crazy and attack you, but also not too low to make you sick.
There was a point, oh, sorry.
No,
There was a point that you made about being intuitive and listening to your body. And I think this condition has just amplified that statement that you made, because it's all good and well, I found, to listen to every person that has information to give and advice on how to move and sort of how to work with this disease. But the best advice you will ever get is from listening to your own body. You know, quite literally, you were 100% spot on. It was my own body that gave me hints and clues as to what is going to work for you and what isn't. Literally by manifesting, like if I eat bread, or if I have excessive salt, or if I have anything that's tomato based, the level of pain in the joints in the next day is very, very different from having a week of not having these foods.
Right. That's incredible. Yeah, thank you for that. The other thing that definitely deserves a mention is the pineapple, because the pineapple comes up quite often when I'm doing research on lupus. Can you tell us your experience with pineapple and why you have it?
In the last 3 or 4 years, the management of my pain has become somewhat more of an effort, and my general protocol of alternate therapies doesn't seem to be working. So one of the things I did was I researched all your fruits and all your vegetables that would be high in terms of anti-inflammatory and help with pain and mobility of joints, and surprisingly, pineapple, papaya, kiwi fruit, and grapefruit and avocados were your top 5. And I figured, well, if it is things that I already like, I would buy like 2-3 pineapples, clean them, put them in the fridge, and then make a smoothie in the morning. And a glass, literally, it's a cup of chopped up pineapple with half a glass of water, blended, and I just drink it. And I cannot explain what it does for my body, except that I feel a lot better.
That's so good, and it was interesting about the inflammation, because I read that it contains something called bromelain, which reduces the inflammation. So your whole body would feel the benefit of that, as you say, almost immediately. So
yes,
it's so exciting. You've told us the foods that you avoid. Sorry, I've got to look at my notes.
No problem.
One thing I wanted to say here, which you said it's okay because you've never attempted them, but it's something which is a bit of a buzzword, and that's like the sprouts. And my learning was that alfalfa sprouts are actually damaging for a lupus patient because it contains something called, it sounds like canavanine, but what it is it takes away, it kind of like it's the body to think that it doesn't have to make the protein arginine, which is actually something that you need. And so I found that very interesting. And I'm just putting it in here in case anyone else feels that by taking the alfalfa sprouts, they're actually helping themselves. In this particular case, it would have a negative effect.
Yes.
Do you eat sprouts of any sort, just for interest sake, just while I'm there?
I do. I do, but it's your, your legumes where you would germinate them overnight and sprout them.
Yes, yes.
So that sort of a sprout. I have come across alfalfa, but it's also a matter of, and I know this sounds very childish, but if it doesn't taste nice, then you won't attempt it.
It actually makes total sense. And in this case, your body needed to hear that.
Absolutely. But I mean, I've had people telling me all the time to try kale, try kale, try kale. And I was like, it just didn't look like something I would be interested in. But surprisingly, I put it into a green smoothie. And it's now one of my favorites.
Oh, there you go. So intriguing. All right. I think we've finished there. Yes. So then we're going to go on to the supplements, which is another important aspect. Tell us about the supplements that you've been on from the beginning and why.
In terms of having seen what my mom had gone through, I made a choice very early on that I would not go the medical route. So for the last 13 to 14 years, I've had no medication unless it's become absolutely dire, where nothing else is going to work for me. So in terms of that, I've gone the alternate route, and my common meds at the moment is your Norwegian salmon oil, your evening primrose oil, flaxseed oil. Of recent, I've also started adding kalunji oil. It's oil that's derived from the onion plant.
Okay.
So, and in the last 5 years or so, what I found has become a little bit more challenging and progressive is emotional and psychological progression in this condition. So for that, I have researched, and that's how I came across you guys, and I've added echinacea. That's obviously for my immune system, but chasteberry and frankincense, the oil, in terms of the oil.
Great, thank you. And then you also said you were on a multivitamin, which wasn't actually helping. So is there anything, so do you really rely on your food to give you your vitamin mineral base?
I have to be very honest and say to you that I am a very small eater and a very lazy eater. So, if I could pop everything in a pill form, I probably would, which is not a good idea. Nothing beats fresh fruit and fresh vegetables or fresh food. But yes, over the last, say, 7 to 8 years, fatigue and lack of energy has also become a bit of a concern for me. And I had been on a quite well-known multivitamin, and in the last 2 years or so, it just didn't seem to have any effect whatsoever. So I've taken it, I've stopped taking it, and I've been looking for alternatives thereafter, because I can have, my days are not hyperactive or manual work that's involved, but I can go to bed feeling like I was probably outside trying to build a house.
Okay, right, absolutely exhausted.
And I will wake up in the morning and feel as if I haven't slept. And if you have it like once or twice, it's okay. But when it's a constant now, it has a ripple effect on other aspects of your life.
Yes, absolutely. That makes 100% sense. And what I'd like to do now, just at this point, just so that I'm out the way kind of thing, is I'd like to make some more herbal suggestions. I have spoken to you about them, and you've agreed
Yes.
you can say it here, which then it'll be up to you whether, which you will try and when. But when I was looking it up with inflammation and pain, there was stinging nettle, which we have in a tea form, which is actually brilliant because you just have it once a day, twice a day, and it really does help with that inflammation and pain. The other one is licorice root, and it says that it actually helps to alleviate lupus symptoms. This was in what I call our herbal Bible. I know some people get into a state about that word, but it really is a brilliantly well-researched book. And it says that it's actually given results comparable to those taking immunosuppressive agents such as steroids. So it's something that might be worth looking into a bit more, maybe.
I think it would be something that's really something that I would consider, because the onset of the first protocol rather for the onset of lupus is steroids, prednisone being your first, and then chloroquine. So
Right.
if it's comparable to licorice is comparable to those drugs, then why not, if it's going to be giving you the same effect?
Okay, absolutely. So you and I can chat more about that one. And then the burdock root, which helps to keep the liver and the blood clean. And then in place of the chasteberry, because I know you've been on the chasteberry for a few years, and sometimes our bodies need a change. There's something we call our woman's own blend, which has got raspberry leaf, and I can't remember if it's got chasteberry in as well, but it's a lovely combination, which does help around the time of periods and so on, to just help keep the hormones a bit more stable, which very often is what can bring on a lot of our autoimmune symptoms.
Yes.
Also for the echinacea is something called astragalus. Now, astragalus, I've learned over the years, is even better than echinacea because it's long lasting and you can stay on it years and years and years, and it never loses its efficacy. And it's brilliant for modulating the immune system. And then the final one is ashwagandha, which would also help with those moods that somehow seem to catch up on you. You spoke about it earlier. And the ashwagandha is very good at that, as well as modulating the immune system. So those are ones that I would add, and maybe we can talk about how you want to do that.
Yes, for sure.
And then let's get on to exercise. I know exercise for me is always a bit of a bugbear, so but I'd love to know, what is your exercise routine?
Well, of recent, it's become very exciting. Prior to that, it was non-existent, because I think, like most people, or personally, I just prefer doing it with company. And then when you don't have the right sort of company, it's a bit challenging to self-motivate at times.
Right.
But for the most part, I've been doing yoga quite frequently, and I've been doing it over a long period of time. Now I've just become a little bit more consistent with it. I was doing swimming, but unfortunately, with everything that's going on, that's come to a stop. I've taken up running, which I now try to do as often as possible. And just a general, weights and cardio that I try to fit in at least 30 minutes early in the morning.
Okay, that's great. And the stretching that comes with yoga, do you find that that helps with your pain levels, especially the pain in your joints and so on?
It does. It does in terms of mobility as well, because it's very slow, relaxed movements in comparison to maybe a cardio workout.
Right. Okay.
So, you know, it's something that I do more often than I would do, let's say, high activity workouts.
Okay. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So even when you have like levels of pain, you find it easier to do the yoga because of it being gentle stretching.
Yes. I'm like I say, I can only speak for myself, but exercise, as much as I love and want to, you know, do it on a daily basis, what seems to be happening over the last 3 or 4 years is that the flare-ups for lupus has become more regular. Prior to this, I would have a flare-up maybe once in 6 months or a very long period without anything happening. But now I find that as it's progressing, it's becoming regular, and it seems to flare up around the menstrual cycle time.
Okay.
So, like in a month, you have literally 2 weeks of, for me personally, flat out, just I can't do this life anymore sort of attitude and feeling. And then you have another 2 weeks where you pick yourself up in 1 week. You sort of just get the momentum going and it's downhill again, you know?
Yes. Okay. So you find that you've got to keep self-motivating yourself, you know.
Consistently, yes.
Around that. Gosh, thank you for that. The next thing that you mentioned, which I love, is the essential oils, of course, because you know how I am. But you mentioned that you are an aromatherapist. And I love that fact because you would know what to mix, when to mix it for best benefit for yourself. Can you just give us one idea, for example, of oils that help you and why they help you?
You have your food Bible, and I have my oil Bible.
Brilliant.
But it's so amazing that I got into aromatherapy to work with children with special needs, and not realizing that a few years down the line it's going to come back and be of benefit to me. Wow. So yes, and in saying that, having gone through all of this, it's been absolutely amazing, because we would never think that a simple oil like lavender has so many benefits when used correctly. But like you were saying, some of my favorite oils for pain management is eucalyptus, lavender, and niaouli, and clove, because they all seem to have a warming effect on the joints, and inflammation helps with inflammation as well.
So do you blend them with a carrier oil and then massage?
Yeah. My favorite carrier oil is either grapeseed or avocado, and then it's just a matter of making sure that the oils that you use work with each other.
Okay.
So for me, having had all this experience, you know, yes, I would know what type of oils and how much to blend. And yes, I would either use it as massage, or I sometimes take the oils and just add them to my body wash, because I'm still applying it to the skin.
Right. Okay, that's amazing. Thank you for that. I think niaouli has so little is known about it that I love it when I hear people talking about it in such a nice, natural way, because I find it one of the best oils. You know, for me, people often use Naioli instead of eucalyptus because it's a bit gentler on the senses.
Yes. Another oil that I heard about, but I wasn't, too interested in it. But now, further down the line, having done research, in terms of helping with your moods and your hormones and things like that, I would have never thought that I would now be frequenting rosewood and frankincense.
Oh yes, rosewood. Does that one help with hormones?
Yes. And it's very good for the nervous system as well. So in terms of that, I generally would do a steam with it.
Right.
And when the water sort of cools down before throwing it away, I soak my feet in it. So a steam and a soak.
Oh, that's fantastic. So then you're getting it through the bottoms of your feet as well. That's awesome.
Yes, absolutely. And I like I said, I would have never have guessed that it would become one of my favorites.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. And using frankincense, do you use it internally or do you rather use it externally? Because it's Serrata, right? That you use.
Yes.
Yes.
I use it as in its natural form. I usually just apply it on my wrists or on the pulse points of my body.
Okay.
And if I intend on putting it into a blend, then obviously it will be in a blend with other oils as well.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. Now there's the two areas that are left, and I'm not sure about time. We may have to do this part again. I'm just putting this as a proviso because they're very important and I don't want to skimp on them. And this is the emotional and the spiritual, because as you said, and as we both agree, when you're working with a long-term illness, you have to be more holistic in the way you deal with your body,
Yes.
your mind, and your spirit. So I'd like to, first of all, ask you about the emotional side. Would you mind explaining? You have mentioned a few times how the last 3 or 4 years it's become more of an emotional roller coaster. And my immediate presumption would be because you're having more flare-ups, which can be very devastating, exhausting. But I'd like you to tell us what it is that you find most difficult at this time dealing with emotions, and then how you are trying to deal with them.
Look, it's I suppose when people hear this, they're going to want to say, but there's a lot of contributing factors in terms of work and your environment and probably your diet and things like that. But in terms of diet and exercise, I try to cover as much as possible. But really and truly, in the last 3 years, emotionally, it's become exhausting. In terms of hormonally, it's a constant up and down roller coaster.
Yeah.
And it becomes challenging when there's pain involved, a physical pain from the body itself. And firstly, yes, you understand that this is the condition and its intelligence is such that it doesn't give you a warning of what's coming, when it's coming, or where it's coming. It can be, this is SLE, it's systemic. So it's any part at any moment when it feels like. And, not knowing, you get used to it, but as it becomes more progressive, then you start to realize that the not knowing is scary, because there's more days where it's down rather than up.
Right.
And in terms of, like I said, physical pain, you then have emotional pain because there are very few people that you can turn to, and the support system that you have is very, very important. Yes. Now, in saying that, somebody, it's as it goes. If you're not walking in my shoes with the condition, it's easy to say I understand and I'm there for you, but you don't really. You know, people don't really understand that. And what I've come to realize over time is that people will ask you the question, what, how are you doing? But it's become a question that people just ask because that's the norm, not that they really want to know. Because when you do open up and you start to share, you realize people that are genuinely interested and people that just ask for the sake of asking. And when that happens, I mean, for me personally, I sort of withdrew from the people closest to me or the people around me because I didn't want to have to be explaining and explaining and explaining. And firstly, you don't get it. And secondly, you're not really bothered, you know? So it's become maybe it's become challenging because I've become the type of person that I'm my everything now. You know, there's who do you turn to sort of situation.
Right. In other words, feeling almost isolated when you.
But that in itself is a challenge because it's an isolation that's that I've chosen by myself. You know, it's not like I can point a finger and say, yes, that's the person that did it, because I can't. But yes, not knowing who you can turn to or not having a strong enough or a diverse enough structure is very, very challenging, because it's very easy to put a smile on your face and the whole world thinks you're okay 24/7.
Absolutely. And there was something you mentioned to me along those lines, which was so important. You said to me that what you've found now is that it's better to actually move out of that place of not really feeling not knowing who to talk to, and rather just talking to one and seeing what happens. In other words, putting yourself out there. You did mention you're trying more and more to do that. And I mean, what you're doing here today with me and with everyone who's going to be watching this is exactly that, is saying, listen, this is who I am. It's not an easy road, but it's a road I've chosen. And I don't know if tomorrow's going to be a good day. I don't know if today is going to be a good day. And that kind of a self-honesty and being honest with others, do you find that freeing or like almost a relief?
I agree in that statement. It has become freeing in the sense that much of my isolation was from thinking and my perception that people don't understand. You know, people just say yes, they do, but they don't really understand. So what's the point in having to explain yourself? And what I realized is that at the end of the day, I was very selfish in the sense that I wanted somebody else to sort of come in and fix whatever was happening within me, but it was only something that I could do. And in saying that, if I chose to share information about myself, that was all that I was responsible for, sharing it. I was not responsible anymore for how other people perceived it or what they chose to do with it. And that is something it's an incredible feeling, knowing that I am responsible only for how I feel and how I put it across.
That's, you know, freeing. That is freeing.
And it's a challenging thing. So when you've become accustomed to this habit and it's become so ingrained in you that you no longer realize that it's become a part of you that you don't really see it anymore. But
Right.
when you take these moments, or when I take these moments, these little risks for me, where like I'm sharing the story with you, and my hope is that it helps somebody else. But even if it doesn't, or even if people respond in whatever way they respond in, I'm not responsible. I have to be okay with me, and that's enough.
Yeah,
That's it.
yes. They're responsible for their own, however they decide to. Lovely. I love that. And then your spiritual tools that you use to help yourself. I'm very intrigued in this section because you mentioned to me that you are a Reiki practitioner. And of course, I have also been a Reiki practitioner. And so I love the fact that there are these other tools, which are both spiritual and emotional. But that aside, I'd like you to explain what is your spiritual path or way of dealing with your lupus?
This is very interesting because in the times that we're living in now, I think spirituality is a term that everybody throws out there, and what is it? And for me, having come from the background in terms of religion, what I found as I moved along with this condition is that the disease, for me personally, is like religion. It's suffocating and it's confining. And I needed to find something that worked for me. And my journey on this path to becoming a spiritual person rather than a religious person has opened up my eyes and my heart and my mind to the magnificence of my creator. And when I say creator, I no longer have a specific name or a form or a color or a shape or a country or a house of prayer, you know. Becoming a spiritual person, like I said, it gave me the opportunity to pick all religions, you know, look at what every religion has to offer and then take it and make it work for myself. Because uh, the most significant thing about losing my mom showed me that nothing is permanent. Everything has an expiry date. And in terms of spirituality, when I expire, I am answerable only to my creator, whoever he may be. So spirituality gave me that. It opened up doors to many opportunities in terms of using different forms of meditation, of using affirmations and words of praise and words of wisdom that didn't necessarily come from the background I was born into in terms of religion, you know.
Yes.
And also, the most important thing is in having the opportunity to meander around religion, key and invaluable lessons of gratitude, of unconditional love, patience, and forgiveness. It's interwoven into every religion, but in terms of spirituality, it sets you free, or it set me free, you know, because it showed me that there's different ways of being grateful. Forgiveness is not a one-sided, it's not a one-sided thing. And most importantly, where unconditional love comes in, unconditional means exactly that. It does not matter what you do, say, are, or be, I just love you. But I have to constantly be practicing that with myself. And of recent, it's become one of those things, you know, I have this amazing relationship with my creator, and I feel that's the constant of constants in my life, the one thing that's unchanging. And, you know, in my moments of going down or going up, you know, I would say, you know, what is it? What is it that I need to sort of work on, in maybe in order to fix the physical things that are manifesting, because all physical manifestations start from an emotional and psychological imbalance.
Right. Right.
So not dealing with your issues and pushing them aside, your body has to deal with it in some way or the other, and eventually it will physically manifest.
Right.
So for me, it's been the theme for the last 2 weeks has just been unconditional love. And when I say unconditional love, so it's been coming in the form of people just making random comments or opening to a book and it's like they're in your face or switching on the
Wow.
TV. And quite literally, it was like on Sunday, I was saying like, I get the message, God, but how do you want me to work with this?
Oh, that's wonderful. That's amazing.
So
I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned meditation. Do you find when things are really difficult, and even if you're just having an outbreak, do you find that you are able to turn to meditation just to find peace of mind at all?
no. I've also come to learn that meditation is not necessarily sitting with your legs crossed and closing your eyes and chanting random names or a particular name or an affirmation, you know. For me now, meditation would be sitting on the beach and just looking at the waves. Because if the sight of the waves can calm my mind, that's a meditative state. Or I'm a teacher by profession, and I find I swear it's happened a few times. Just watching my kids playing it calms my mind down and calms me down to a state where I would call it a meditative state.
That
but again, you know, of recent, the roller coaster ride, you know, the point where the mind just does not shut off. That's what I've been finding very, very difficult of recent, you know, and I have been in and out of different types of meditation, and nothing seems to be doing it for me. So again, you know, it's a matter of finding something now, once again, because quietening the mind has had days on me where literally I just wanted to take this brain out and leave it to one side just for the night and
have a
it's
break.
empty.
Oh, shit. That is something so interesting, because it is normally at nighttime that the brain seems to speed up with a lot of autoimmune diseases. A lot of people tend to find that finding a sleeping pattern just goes out the window, and finding ways but that is difficult.
I completely agree with that, and it really has been over the last maybe two and a half years, but it's become progressively worse, in the sense that because there's no shutting off, sleep has become an issue. And when there's lack of sleep, then it adds to the fatigue, and it also adds to your sense of your moods and your emotions, and it all has, yes, a ripple effect right through, in terms of maybe everything presenting itself just from that one aspect of not being able to shut down the mind. And it's very interesting, because if you become aware as the mind is working. I promise you, Sue, it's inconsequential, unimportant thoughts, but it's like on repeat.
Oh, okay. Right.
So it's, you know that you're getting nothing of benefit, but you're still going ahead with this.
Oh, no, that sounds awful.
So, and it's like nothing switches it off. I love to read and I have loads of books, but I just can't get to it. I can do maybe a maximum of a page and a half or 2 pages, and then my mind is gone.
Right.
I'm constantly joking about this, but it's true. I'll be sitting in front of the TV and the TV is watching me instead of me watching the TV.
Okay. It's good that you can laugh about these things, because I think, you know, they are huge. They are actually huge.
Yeah,
When it's
they are.
and day out that you're not sleeping, that you are zoning out, that you're getting exhausted, it can have a huge effect. And to find a way of dealing with that can become quite urgent and important. And also, I love the fact that you're being so real and saying spirituality is not always the thing to get me to peace, because sometimes the disease that's actually just taken over, and it needs more than a prayer or a meditation in order for me to find just a bit of quiet and silence in my head. So thank you so much for that. That's huge.
The word that I really love that you use, and I use it for myself and in my professionals as well, is holistic. And any condition or any life in itself has to be a holistic balance. And in terms of my condition, it's not just one thing that is going to give me what I need for a healthy life. I can't just say popping pills is going to give me that best of health and a long, healthy life. It's shown me that diet plays an important part. What I feed my mind and my soul plays an important part. In terms of physical exercise, what I do is also for my well-being. And now, in terms of where I am, psychologically, emotionally, it's very, very, very important what you feed yourself in terms of your thoughts, and more importantly, who you have around you. Because you can have people that love you the most, but can be absolutely the worst for you.
Right.
And then you could have just 2 people in your life that are the ones that have your back, you know, and when days are hard, they're there. And when days are flying high, they're still there.
Right.
But they understand you.
Yes. And that becomes so important.
It does. It does.
Sharan, we've come to the end of our interview, but I could talk with you for hours, because there's just so much that you have packed into your 14, 13 years of living with this illness. And as you say, you know, a smiling face doesn't show what lies behind. The days when you can't get up, the days when you're exhausted, the days when you're crying, you know, we don't see that. And I just value the fact that you have just been so real in our whole interview. And so I want to say thank you. And I want to say to anyone watching this that please, if you have anything to add, any information that you may want Sharan to pass on to you or repeat, please let us know. and I can pass it on to Sharon, and then she can give you a reply. So Sharon, again, thank you so much. And I'm sure we will be talking again. And I just want to say lots of love, and may God bless you.
All that and much more to you as well, Sue. Thank you so much for the opportunity and giving me the platform to do this. And like I said, my intention is to help whoever might need it, because sometimes all you need is just somebody to say, I understand, and I'm there for you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.